All right, so now that our app gives us the ability to delete both favorites and friends in a full stack way, the final thing that we're going to take a look at here is how to create update endpoints and convert our front end over to use them. So let's head over to our server file again, and we're going to add those update endpoints right underneath our delete endpoints. Okay, so we'll say update. And there's two main endpoints that we're going to have here. One is going to be for editing our own profile data, and the other is going to be for editing our friends' data. So let's create those two endpoints. Now, both of these are going to be put endpoints. And again, that's just a RESTful convention. When you create an update endpoint, you have a put request. And basically that put request will just contain whatever updates or changes we want to make to a given resource. So for the first one, updating our profile info, this is going to look very similar to what we did when we wanted to load the user's profile information. We're again going to say /users/user ID to make this easier to expand later to include multiple users. So we'll go down here, change this put to /users/user ID. And for our request and response, what we're going to do is we're first going to get the updates that have been sent along with the request. So in order to do that, we're just going to say const. We'll call this updated friend info equals request.body. Okay, so we're going to need to send our updated info along in this format. And in fact, since we've inside our create friend endpoint, we just had our new friend info directly on the request body. Why don't we do the same thing for our edit profile endpoint here? So we'll just remove these curly braces and assume that the updated info is going to be the body itself. Okay, so now that we have the updated friend info, all we're going to do is go through our users and set the user with that ID to the new information that we received. So here's what that's going to look like. We're going to say const user equals users.find, and we'll want to find the user with this user ID, which we haven't gotten from the URL parameters yet. Let's do that now. Say const user ID equals request.params. And then we're going to find the user with that user ID. So user.id is equal to user ID. And we're going to edit that user by saying user equals updated friend info, and that actually doesn't make sense as a name, does it? We're going to say updated user info. Okay, I was following the other endpoint too closely, so we'll change that to updated user info, and we might need to change this to let if it lets us do that at all. If it doesn't, we'll just have to come back and fix it. And finally, we're just going to send back the updated user data to the client by saying response.json. We'll say user. Or, we can even change that to updated user info. It doesn't really matter at this point. Another thing that we can do, right, we could also say if user do this, right, just to basically send back a 404 if there is no user with that ID. Okay, we can say response.send status 404, and let's give that a try, right? This thing might not work, but we will just have to wait and see. Let's first of all make sure our server's running. Yep, it is. So let's try and edit our user info by saying something like, well, we'll send a put request to /users/999. Our updated info here is going to just include name. Let's change the spelling of my name here a little bit. We'll change my age to something else also. Say I'm 99 years old. And let's just do those two things for now. That'll tell us if it worked, basically. So let's click on send. And sure enough, we'll see that that sent us back the updated user information. And now, if we try and load that user again, we should see that those changes have persisted, right? We'll say get users/999, click send. And it looks like that didn't actually work, so let's try that again. What we're going to have to do inside of here, instead of doing what I was trying to do there, which obviously didn't work, we're going to have to say object.keys updated user info dot for each, and for each of those keys we're essentially just going to set that key to the corresponding new value on our user. So we'll say user key equals updated user info key. All right, so let's see if that one works now. All right, we're going to check and make sure our server's running. We're going to go back here, make the request that we made before. We're going to send a put request with the name and age. We'll click send, and we'll get this back now. That's actually not what I was expecting to get back. So, we need to just send back our user now, not updated user info. There we go. Let's try this one more time. Sure enough, finally we see that we have our updated user sent back to us from the server. Okay, so we have ID 999, my name spelled differently. We're going to now send a GET request to make sure that that was persisted appropriately. Click send, and sure enough, we see that those changes have been persisted. So that was a little trickier than I expected it to be, I will admit. But now we can move on to implementing the next endpoint, which will be the one where we can edit our friend data. Now this one is going to be almost exactly the same as what we did here, just with our friends instead of the users array. So for that, we're going to say app.put. This is going to be /friends/friend ID. We're going to have our request and response. And I'm just going to copy this and paste it into here, and we'll go through and edit each of these. Okay, so we'll change this to friend ID, change this to updated friend info, we'll change this to updated friend info as well, updated friend info, and we'll change this to friends.find, let friend, change this to friend, change this to friend, and change this to friend ID. We're almost there, I promise. And last but not least, down here, we're going to say friend key, res.json friend, and if friend up here. Okay, so that should be all. I don't see any more users laying around. So let's try this one now. All right, we're going to send this same kind of request to friend endpoint. So we'll say put friends / and let's edit friend 123, I suppose. And we're going to change that friend's name to, I don't know. We'll just change it to changed right now. And for age, we'll put 123. Okay, so we're going to click send. And we should see that our friend has their name changed and their age as well. And if we send a GET request to our individual friend endpoint, we should see that those changes have now persisted. Cool, so we now have both our update friend and update profile info endpoints implemented. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.